Good morning, everyone. This is the Outer Rim, and welcome to the channel. Per request, I am sitting, and you guys seem to like it more, and I personally like it more. I feel like it's more of like a conversation. So from now on, I'm going to be sitting in my videos. So I'm just letting you all know, first of all, this video might be a little bit shorter. Just because I actually timed it, and on screen it was about only 28 minutes, which I'm used to watching Clone Wars episodes, so it doesn't really bother me about the time of the episode, as long as there's enough in it to where it moves the plot and it's, good. Now, I must admit, I know I'm a day late on the review, and it was due to technical difficulties, but I'm glad it happened, because when I first watched it, I actually did not like it at all. It might have been my least favorite episode of the entire show, really, and I'll tell you the reason why. When I first watched it, I thought all the shots were cheesy, the armor for the stormtroopers were cheesy, and etc., etc. And I watched it this morning, and I honestly have a totally different outlook of the episode. In which, if you can't tell already, I'm going to spoil the crap out of this episode. So if you have not seen it, go watch it and come back here and we can have a conversation. So starting off, we go right into Tython. Before that, they give us the title of this episode, The Tragedy. Which, in my Discord, when we were watching it live, I typed in there, hey, Grogu is going to get captured. I know it. And spoiler alert, that's really what happens. So we get to Tython. We get to the top of the mountain where Baby Yoda is supposed to meditate, and he meditates. And during this whole episode, he has this, force shield around him, and Din Djarin tries to, grab him and stuff, but it's not possible to get through. The only really thing I'm disappointed in this episode, in which it'll probably come up later, is if Grogu made contact with any other Jedi out there. Or maybe Sith. But we'll talk about that later. Anyways, Slave One appears, and by the way, Slave One looks great in this episode. It looks fantastic. The CGI in this show is very, very top tier. Well, then obviously the pilot of Slave One is Boba Fett. Boba Fett goes to Din Djarin, and he's like, hey, I want my armor back, or I will take the child if I don't get my armor back, basically. And, Din asked him, did you take the creed and all that kind of stuff? Which is a rightful question to ask. All of us sitting back are like, yo, it's Boba Fett, But, which we'll talk about soon, is that at this point, we never knew really if Boba Fett was a confirmed Mandalorian. And actually, Boba brought company with him. He brought Fennec Shand from Season 1. It was that bounty hunter who was tracking the baby back in Season 1. She was ex-Imperial, sniper, I think it was. But the person who saved her in Season 1 was actually Boba Fett, which is cool. But now she's in his debt and is going to serve him for X amount of time. Then we're still having this conversation, and then of course the Empire shows up. Now we're getting to the meat of this episode, and this is to where I had conflict when I first watched it, but now watching it back, I appreciated it so much more. First of all, I'll tell you what I liked both times, then I'll tell you what changed after a while. So both times, I will tell you, the hand-to-hand combat and the fighting in this episode is top-tier Star Wars. Temuera Morrison, actually, in this episode, did a freaking great job. Me, personally, when it comes to hand-to-hand combat stuff, I like aggressive and, kind of mean hand-to-hand combat. In which it's funny, you can never tell because Boba Fett's wearing his helmet, but you never tell his intensity when he fights. But I freaking loved it in this episode. It gave it a gritty feel. It was so good. It was probably one of my favorite things in this, in this show. So this is basically the meat of the episode. They're basically fighting the Empire the entire time, and like I said before, Din Djarin is trying to grab Grogu and he can't because of that force shield. And during these combat scenes, Fennec Shand, she did a great job, sharpshooting stuff. She was a badass in this episode, I will admit. But obviously the highlight of this episode is Boba Fett. He obviously gets his armor back during the fight. He goes on the Razor Crest and gets it. He's using all his tools and stuff, and he actually didn't, never knew this. Well, we've never seen it before. But he has knee rockets. He, stomps his foot in the ground and shoots rockets, and it kills 2 stormtroopers. It was so cool. But I love the Tusken Raider vibe to him, plus his armor. It's so good. He's actually using a Tusken Raider weapon, with those hand-to-hand combat moments, which were super cool. And eventually, the fighting can last so long. Moff Gideon shows up, and then Moff Gideon sends in the Dark Troopers, which we all thought they were. He sends them down, and then actually Grogu gets out of the force shield, and apparently and they say this at the end of the episode, or Moff Gideon does, spoiler alert, Baby Yoda gets captured. But it's the really selling point that he knows that when Baby Yoda uses the Force, he gets instantly tired. Which I don't know if we're gonna, go on that anymore, or it's just gonna be an unspoken thing. Maybe it's because he's very young. I don't know, but I would like to know kind of like where that's gonna go. Anyways, the Dark Troopers scoop them up and go to their ship. And the fighting's over, and then you think it's over. You think Moff Gideon's just gonna, go away on his ship, which he eventually does. But before this is the worst thing about this episode. It really is. Now, I'm not saying like quality wise, I'm saying just like sad wise and just like a tragedy. Moff Gideon blows up the Razor Crest, which if you watch me on my Twitch streams, on my recent stream, I literally was asked actually, what's your favorite ship? And I'm sorry guys, I jinxed it. I said the Razor Crest. It's the best ship in Star Wars in my opinion. Now it's gone. But the one thing he does have is his spear, which is Beskar, so I kind of figured it was going to survive the explosion. But, like, damn, man. Just everything's gone. All the memories, man. Then after that, Din grabs a spear from the rebel, and then he goes to Boba Fett and basically tells him, like, hey, thank you for what you've done here, and whatever, etc., etc. Boba Fett first pulls up a log in his armor, which I asked this question to some people. I wonder if every Mandalorian armor, not every, but the majority of them have a log of their family, which is what Boba Fett pulled up on his arm. And it showed that Jango Fett actually was a foundling, which if you don't know who Jango Fett is, it's Boba Fett's dad, which now canonizes that Jango Fett was actually a Mandalorian, which makes Boba Fett a Mandalorian, which to me is awesome because I grew up playing, this little game called Bounty Hunter, and I've always loved Jango Fett. I always thought he was a Mandalorian, but it was cool to have it canonized, and it's confirmed that he was a Mandalorian. He also served in both the Civil Wars prior to the Clone Wars, which is super cool. Anyways, Boba Fett confirms that, so Din's like, all right, have your armor. And basically what Boba Fett says is, hey, I accepted the armor, and in return, I promised that I would have the safety of the child at hand, and we got to go save him, basically. So we got a little crew starting to pop up. We have Din Djarin, and now Boba Fett, and Fennec. So Din Djarin needs more help, so he goes and finds Cara Dune. Basically enlists her help because they took the kid. And Din Djarin also wants to break out Bill Burr's character, to which the return of Bill Burr would be awesome. I love Bill Burr. But to see that crew that Din Djarin locked up in season 1 return to go save the child would be such a cool thing to see. Which we're going to have this massive crew of all these great characters going to save the child in the next couple of episodes. It's going to be so cool. I cannot wait for those episodes. Now at the end of the episode, Moff Gideon goes into the cell of Grogu, and he's in there throwing him around. It was kind of funny at first. Then all of a sudden, he starts force choking both these stormtroopers, and obviously Moff Gideon lets him. But it brings a sinister thought in my mind. What if Grogu would go to the dark side? Like Ahsoka said, attachment. She's seen what it's done to the best of us. And it's really, really, really scary to think about, I mean, he's kind of older, but he really, I don't know. It scares me, guys. It does. It's a worrying thought, but hopefully Grogu stays on the path of the Jedi. He runs into Ezra or Cal Kestis or even Luke. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but super excited for the next couple of episodes. And I hope you guys are too. Now, that's all the time we have for today, guys. Thanks for watching. All my socials are in the description of this video. Thank you all so much, and may the Force be with you always.